My husband, M30, won't spend time with our daughter, F8MO. My husband, M33, and I, F23, just had our first daughter, F8MO, in October. We have been together for 4 years. He is a good dad for the most part. Like, I know he loves her very much, but he won't spend time/be involved with her, resulting in her only ever wanting me. He will do pretty much anything I ask of him relating to our daughter, but he won't go out of his way to do it without me asking. We both stay at home, and he works on our home most days. But he gets to pick and choose when he wants to work, so if he doesn't feel like it, he won't. I cook and take care of our daughter's every need, every day. All of this isn't a problem right now, but I start school again in August. He doesn't know when to feed her, how much to feed her. He doesn't change diapers often, so he doesn't even check when she needs a change. He doesn't even know which drawer her onsies are in. He doesn't put her to sleep for naps or for bedtime either. Granted, I breastfeed her to sleep sometimes. However, I have put her to sleep in the rocking chair plenty of times without my boob, so I know he can put her to sleep as well if he tried. When he has tried, if she's not already half asleep and goes down easily, he gives up so quickly and I have to take over. Even if he doesn't give up, I can't let her see me because she will cry and stare at me until I get her. She is very attached to me because I am the one who tends to her every need. Recently, I have told him, more than once a day, that he needs to spend more time with her and tend to her needs so she won't always want me. His reply is, "You made her dependent on you. She doesn't want me." But in my opinion, if he tended to her more, she would want to go to him and not look for me every time. He tells me that she's dependent on me because I pick her up every time she cries. But I'm not going to just let her cry all day. I want to give her comfort, and I want her to know that I'm going to be there for her no matter what's wrong. That's her only way of communicating right now, and I won't just ignore her. He also likes to bring up studies done on babies and how you're not supposed to pick them up every time they cry. But the studies that I've read have said it raises babies' cortisol levels, which can cause a number of problems mentally and physically. I think it's also important to note that we have a very independent baby. She is so good by herself for at least an hour after she wakes up. She only whines and cries if she really needs something like to eat. She hurts herself, she's tired, or her teeth are aching. So it's not like he has to entertain her all day or hold her all day even if she has those issues or wants something. Once her need is met, she is okay and will almost always play by herself. With me starting school, I'm probably going to be gone for most of the day, and I'm afraid he's going to start letting her cry until she can't anymore. That's why he brings the studies up. I'm also afraid he just won't know what to do because he's not even trying to learn what she likes and how she likes things. Another thing is that when he doesn't want to actually watch her or play with her, he just puts her show on TV. I'm afraid he's just going to put the TV for her on all day while I'm gone. In my opinion, he should want to be involved in his daughter's day-to-day, and he should want her to want him. He shouldn't fight me for asking him to be more involved with her. I plan on having a deeper conversation with him because every time I've tried to bring it up, I was trying to be nice and not make it a big thing, but he shuts it down or tells me it's my fault every time, so I'm going to let him know it's something that is a big issue for me. I just don't want it to turn into a big argument. I guess I'm asking for advice on how to get him to be involved in what she does every day without fighting me on it and saying it's my fault that she's dependent on me. Now to the next story, Story 2. Roommate's entitled mother causes chaos and gets me evicted. Roommate's mom asked me to drive to pick her up from an airport 2 hours away. Gets mad when I come, and she leaves with her son. Bailing on rent. Backstory. Before I start this post, I want to get some facts out there. Firstly, I'm going to a college that has no student dorms, so you have to rent an apartment that's close enough for you to get to school. Second, this all happened almost a year ago, so wording is paraphrased a lot. And lastly, this post would too long if I posted everything I experienced between these two. So I'm going to focus on one story and some background. I met my roommate when I moved down for college. I put a lot of money into the apartment, furniture, the security deposit, and several months' rent, paying off my entire half of our lease. His mom practically screamed, "drug addict," when I saw her. Though, Everything was always good between us, as far as I could tell. She also called me her second son a few times. In May of 23, my roommate's mom was flying down from her house to both visit her son and to bring the rent payment for that month. Our apartment was around 30 minutes from the airport, so, due to not having a car, we asked a friend to pick her up for us. On the day of the flight, I got a message from roommate's mom, RM from now on. RM, hey, so I accidentally booked a flight for airport that's 2 hours away instead of local airport. I can send you some money out of the rent and you can go rent a car to come pick me up. I talked with a good friend of mine who had been picking me up for school to see if we could use her car instead and have RM pay for gas. My friend agreed and we set up to leave after our class, which was around 5 p.m. RM didn't like this at first because her plane landed at 3, so she would have 4 hours or so to KLL before we could get there. But no matter what, it was going to be like that, and I explained that to her, so she agreed in the end again. Come the end of class, friend and I head out to start the journey to the other airport. While on the road, I get this text. RM, hey, so, you can just turn around and go back. I have some friends here and I want to give them some gifts I brought down with me from home and I don't want to waste your time. Me, a little annoyed that we had already been driving for 30 minutes, text her back. But friend and I are already on the road and have been for 30 minutes. Plus rent is due tomorrow and you have to pay it. RM and I have a little back and forth, but she then says she understands and gives me a new address to pick her up from. That's around 4 miles from the airport, where we were supposed to pick her up. Now, me and friend have fun on this car ride, blasting music and talking video games until when we were about 20 minutes out. I get a new text from RM saying her location has changed and that she got a hotel room and to just go back. My friend was not having any of it though because it had been almost 2 hours of tourist traffic. We go to college in a tourist state, and we had a mission to do. When we get to RM's room, she actually agrees to come with us, packs her things in the car, then asks if me and friend had eaten yet. We hadn't, since we both normally eat after class, so she handed me $100 to go to a local diner and said she was going to just drop off the presents with my friends. My friend and I eat, and when we come back, we get into friend's car and I text RM that we are here. Now, before I continue, we had left around 5 or 6 and got there around 10 due to the traffic. Dinner made us stay out until 11. Friend and I were tired and just wanted to go home. RM texted me backing asking for 10 more minutes, which was annoying, but we agreed. And then another 10 minutes, and another, and another. This went on until 1 in the morning. At that point, friend had enough of it. We go to see where RM is at, and lo and behold, she's at a bar that opened at midnight. I text her saying to get out, or we would drop off her stuff with the bar and leave. While we needed her for my rent, my friend and I had class the next day, which was in less than 12 hours at that point. RM starting ranting about how I am a mother who doesn't get to see my son that you live with. You don't understand what it's like to be unloved and taking care of kids who hate you. So just foo CK off with it. You won't leave anyways, you need me to pay the rent. And if you leave me, I'll just go back home and you can suffer eviction. At this point, friend and I had enough of RM. For some extra context, at the time friend and I were both 18. We felt betrayed by RM, took her stuff out and left it with the bouncer who was outside the bar. We then name-dropped RM and got told, oh, stay the hell away from her if you know what's good for you kids. She's bad news. Friend and I had a laugh as we went back to the car. Now, a little extra info. We would have been fine waiting so long if it wasn't that. We had class the next day at 11. The car was leaking. Something. We were unsure what it was, and it seemed to just be a minor water leak. RM by chat at me on text as friend, and I drove away. We just laughed it off until the car broke down, and in the end we had to get a motel room so that friend's dad could come down the next day and try and help us fix the car. RM kept texting me and changed tone from angry to, are you okay? This is why I said you shouldn't come. I just had this feeling something bad was going to happen. You should have stayed home and not come, yada yada yada. Honestly, I just wouldn't respond other than my text of, because you wouldn't listen to me, friend, and I had to go to a motel to stay the night. Hope you're happy. Was I a bit mad? Yes, But I also had been up since around 8 a.m. and it was past 1 in the morning and I was done acting like I could put up with her. The next day, my friend's dad was pissed about what happened and said she was lucky friend and I were 18 because otherwise he would sue the living crap out of her. I should mention, friend's dad is a lawyer. Don't mess with them. He took friend and I out to get some lunch while we attended our class online with permission from the teacher due to what happened. Just a month after that happened, RM forced her baby boy to move out and back home with her. Mind you, her baby boy was the oldest in this group, minus his mother in his mid-20s. They also tried to force the leasing office to remove his name from the lease because it was unfair that he wasn't living there and still had to pay. The leasing office did everything they could after he left. They worked with me until my money was all gone, around $10K, and I had to move out due to eviction. Although on records, they moved it to collections and only put my ex-roommate and his mom on the paper so that I wouldn't be bothered. Next story, story 3. How would you have handled this? I got Reddit to talk about my toxic in-laws and get advice, and it's really therapeutic, so I thought I'd share another story. 2 years ago, I got a call from my cousin, even though I don't consider her family because we went to high school together, and she barely acknowledged my existence unless it was for her own gain. Anyways, she called me multiple times while I was sleeping. I knew something was wrong because, like I said, she never talked to me, and last time she blew my phone up it was to tell me my uncle died, Dad's brother. She told me that my dad wasn't doing good at all. I live in FL, which is 9 hours from my dad. Last time I saw him at this point was a year earlier when his brother died. I had just found out I was pregnant, but didn't know how to tell my dad at his brother's funeral, and then I moved to FL. I'm not making this post to bash my dad. Please don't look at him as a bad person. I love my dad very much. He made bad life choices and was drinking heavily and using different drugs. My parents separated when I was 2, and I've seen him on and off my whole life, but every time he was around I had so much fun with him. I never saw his bad side. Back to the phone call though. She told me he wasted asking right and could hardly walk or talk. I didn't really know what to think. She said he had been acting sick a week before, and so they took him to the hospital. For 2 days I didn't know what to do because I wasn't really getting any more updates on him. She finally told me how bad of shape he was in. They put him in a coma, and he had 3 strokes, so I immediately told my husband we had to go up there to see him. When we got to the hospital, my grandma warned me in the waiting room how bad he looked before I went in the room. As soon as I walked in, I immediately started crying and almost fell to the ground. My mom and husband had to catch me. The nurse told me he had multiple infections throughout his body, but that was all fixable, and the strokes were the real problem. They said there's little to no chance of him making it off life support, and that if he somehow did, he would be in a vegetative state for the rest of his life. I broke down again. I had so much hope until that conversation. When I walked out to the waiting room, as soon as I saw my grandma, I immediately started bawling again as she hugged me. I saw my cousin sitting in the window, and she actually smirked and turned her head. OFC at that moment, I'm not even thinking about her. My dad is dying. The chaplain took all of us in the family room to talk. Before going up to NC, I was told that I needed to be there because I was next of kin and had to do paperwork, and it was ultimately my decision to take him off life support. Being in that room, it felt like a group decision when asked what we want. Everyone said to take him off. So the Champlain goes, well, if everyone agrees, let's go in there and say our final goodbyes. I broke down again. I buried my face in my husband's arm. I couldn't believe that I would never see him again, and I didn't want to face it. That's when my cousin decided to give a speech with fake crocodile tears and say, I'm just glad we have good memories with him in that house, blah, blah, blah. Then she looked over at me. My dad and his 2 siblings lived with my grandma, so for most of my cousin's life, she lived there too. Then she goes back to talking normal. We prayed over him and said goodbye, and I was crying, but looking back, I definitely can see how my cousin was acting center of attention, laughing and carrying on. I texted her asking if she would please find the picture of me and my dad he always had pinned to his wall, and I also asked what their plans were with his scooter he loved so much, and he always would show me new things he had added onto it when I would come visit. She ignored my message. She also ignored me at the funeral, glaring at me at times. At one point, I had a total breakdown because she was signing his guest books and glared over at me, then looked at her sister as if she was talking about me, and I lost it because I was sitting on the same couch I sat on a year ago, next to my dad at his brother's funeral. My dad wasn't there this time to protect me because she'd never treat me like that in front of him. She also said loudly, sitting 2 seats behind me, he was like a dad to me, which is a lie. He always called her a brat and yelled at her for being mean to me, and she acts like I don't know he was always gone. I didn't get a single thing of my dad's. On my way back to FL, I saw she blocked me on all social media. I text her telling her I didn't care, and that family should never treat family that way. Should I have even texted her? Probably not. She texted me saying how I didn't care or love my dad and that my dad knew who really loved him and blah blah blah. She said all I cared about was his stuff when they were really grieving, mind you. Before they took my dad off life support, everyone including her left. Now I'm not bashing my grandma for that because she's just lost 2 sons in less than 2 years, but don't tell me I'm not grieving when I had to see my dad dying and being taken off the only thing keeping him breathing. She then told me to go back to living my life the way I did when he was alive. She said I was never around, so don't act like I care about him now. I was a child. I had no choice whether I could see him or not. I still loved my dad and cried over him my whole life. I moved to FL with my husband when I was 18 and had no car to go see him. I had my friend take me to see him when she could. He died 2 years after me moving to FL. She also told me it took everything inside her to not stand up at the funeral and call both me and my mother out on our BS. Yet my mom said she was in the bathroom at the funeral home and my cousin hugged my mom like what? I blocked her, but I struggle with this to this day. Not necessarily with her, but I do have a lot of regrets. I wish I called him more, but I didn't want to ever experience a phone call where he was messed up. I moved to FL before having my daughter, and he never met her. I wanted to protect my daughter, but gosh it key LLS me he never even held her once. It's been 2 years and I cry all the time. He died 2 weeks before Christmas. If anyone has read any of my other posts, this is why I'm tired of my toxic MIL bashing me on my relationship with my dad versus hers, and why she should have Christmas morning with my husband and daughter. I told her how my cousin treated me. I told her how bad I hurt, and she continues to hurt me too, and say that she didn't do anything wrong and she's not sorry. I'm at a point where I am tired of being a doormat, and everyone treats me so bad when I don't do anything to anyone. I'm not trying to be boastful, but I consider myself a nice and caring person to others, but people continue to disrespect me and say I am the problem.